So I want to talk about the carbon tax in Canada. This is going to be just a little video about that. So if that doesn't interest you, just click away. So global warming. We have a huge problem with what we call global warming. It's a freaking planet hit us. Something the size of Mars hit us, devastated us, and left us with ice caps. Also created our moon. Several other incidents have created our ice caps, but nothing has been the greenhouse effect. None of that. Now, we're not going to drown. Whoever told you that information is wrong. There are several oceans where that water used to be, where it'll return back to. Some coastal places might need to move a little bit because, originally that was underwater. Easy way to tell. Dig around on your property if you're on the ocean front, and if you find seashells and stuff, probably used to be in the ocean. But yeah, global warming is a myth created to control you. What the planet is currently going through is reclimatization of a tropical planet. This is pretty much a tropical planet. I don't care what's covered in snow where. Dig down to the bottom, you're going to find organic material, proving that, it wasn't always frozen. It's never been a matter of CO2. They can say, oh, CO2, it causes the atmosphere to heat up. Actually, it causes the atmosphere to expand. And that expanded space actually takes care of the heat itself. So for every metric kilometer, square kilometer of CO2, it leads to an expansion of the atmosphere, which can take the extra heat. That's why it's all the extra CO2 let out by a volcano or humans hasn't changed the temperature of the planet. What has changed the temperature of the planet is the two giant ice cubes at either end that have been slowly melting. The more they melt, the more water there is, the more coolant there is. Now, you heard me right, coolant. So when the sun hits the planet and the heat gets trapped in the atmosphere, it vaporizes water, which turns into clouds, which effectively cools the ground layers. It brings heat up into the upper atmosphere, where it can be dispersed. And if the atmosphere is thicker with CO2, there's literally more more radiation material for it to radiate through, taking a little longer in the upper atmosphere, but not affecting the ground layer. Now, people are really confused as to what reclimatization is. I don't hear a lot of people talking about it, but it's basically all that water is going to melt, return into the aquifers, the cloud layer, what you have it, and it'll eventually settle back down on the low points that used to be oceans. There's salt flats, do your research on how many deserts are actually in the world that used to be ocean, where there's high amounts of salt and, all kinds of, sea life fossils. So, I really don't understand how Trudeau gets away with charging the carbon tax. It should be a federal crime. He should be serving time for this. He's taken studies and hearsay and injected them into law. There is no global warming. To warm our planet more than it already is, we would need to get substantially closer to our sun. It's reclimatization of a tropical planet. We are at a disadvantage heat-wise still today by several degrees in a lot of places. And then at other places, there is an over-deficit of heat because the water has not yet returned. As the ice caps melt and as all these icebergs, re-enter the liquid gas phase form of our planet, people are going to see places that were tremendously hot will return to a tropical type environment. If all the water melted at once, sure, it would be devastating. But the slow, gradual melt that we're seeing will give people plenty of time to get to safety. It's not even dangerous. It's only dangerous if you're stubborn and you're dumb. Now, climate scientists can come at me all they want, but if global warming truly was a huge, massive, monumental problem, volcanoes going off would cause a tremendous amount of damage. But that's not what they do, because those gases expand our atmosphere, and it's basically you've created all that extra gas. Apparently, it's going to get warmed up and heated up by sunlight, but that's not really what's going on. It's the sunlight hits the ground, radiates to the ground, radiates to the planet, which radiates to the aquifer, which radiates to the air, which radiates to the clouds, which radiates to the atmosphere. All you're doing is adding a little extra time, but you're also adding density and size. So, no matter how you look at this, one, charging carbon tax because you want to stop carbon emissions is ridiculous. There are volcanoes that have went off and created more carbon than all of humanity, and they've done so within a few days. So, no, we're not the leading contributor to carbon. We never have been. That would be the planet itself. Now, I know people want to make the air healthier to breathe and all that. It's a great thing. But scamming someone and stealing their money because you think you're fucking smart is a really stupid thing to do, especially when something like that could land you in a lot of hot water when it turns out that it's fucking bullshit. So, no, there is no climate crisis. No, carbon isn't the big issue. If anything should be taxed, it's the poisons in gas that come out, the non-carbons. And if anybody should be taxed, it's the people selling and producing it. So, who should pay the carbon tax? The people who want to make money off the fucking gas, not the people that are forced to use it. So, the Canadian citizens of Canada should not be paying the carbon tax. The people who sell this as their main profit should be the ones covering the carbon tax. I never chose to use gas in my entire fucking life. I've never owned a car. I've never owned a house. I've never been in charge of what heats it. I've never been in charge of what drives it. I'm just the unfortunate one that has to, pay money to get in a cab, pay money to get on a bus. And yeah, I think the whole carbon tax thing is nothing but another scam run by our government to make sure that their bottom line doesn't get hurt. Because remember, if their bottom line gets hurt, they get hurt. That's why we're the ones that have to take on all of the debt, and why they're not responsible for the debt they create. And that's part of the reason why the system is going down the toilet, is because you can be in control of a system and not have to be responsible for it. So Trudeau can introduce a carbon tax, considered to be bullshit, and he's not going to get in trouble for it, which, stupidity. Then they're just going to keep doing these things over and over and over again. Government is not inherently good or inherently evil, but the pricks that run it, they are. Now, maybe it's time that all politicians over a certain level have to go for a psychiatric analysis, and if it's proven that they are not capable of having a mental state where they can care about people, they shouldn't be allowed to have the job. Like, I don't know how else to put it, but I think a lot of politicians out there don't give a fuck about us. They don't give a fuck about the little guy. They don't give a fuck about what you're going to eat. They don't give a fuck about where you're going to live. Until, it becomes a massive fuck up, they don't really give a fuck, because they get to wear their suit, they get to have their car, they get to eat their food, they get their paycheck, they get all of that. And no matter how bad or good of a job they're doing, they still get paid. Maybe that's something that needs to be changed. Like, I'm a firm believer that our political system is fucked for one reason. Because they give us fake power to vote someone in, and then when they don't do their job, we're fucked. Just like Trudeau right now. So imagine there was no elections. We just found the right person for the job. And they don't start doing the job. We immediately hold an election. Fire them or not fire them. That's it. Our government starts moving in the wrong direction, and more than half the country says, time to fire them because they're not doing what they told us they would do. That's power. Voting someone in is fake. It's the complete opposite of power. Oh, we'll let you choose between 3 douchebags to run your country, but then when they don't do the job you asked them to do, too bad. Do you get it? Like, would you ever own a business and be like, I'm going to elect my boss. I'm the owner, but I'm going to elect my boss. And I'm going to let him run the place. And there's nothing I can do once we elect him in. Doesn't make sense. It's just like charging someone for harassment for calling someone when you had the availability to block their number. Well, at that point, if you didn't block their number, it's almost like you want to be harassed. I know that's just my personal feelings on that matter. But honestly, it's about time people start being responsible for themselves. It's about time the government starts being responsible for itself. I don't know what kind of Kool-Aid y'all been drinking in school, but I didn't drink the Kool-Aid. I didn't do what the teachers asked me because it always felt inherently wrong. Something felt inherently wrong about public school. Grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, grade 5, it didn't seem like they really wanted to teach me. It seemed like they wanted me to know enough to go out into the world and do what they wanted me to do. Well, when I was a little kid, I wanted to become a firefighter. All those days sitting in school, wasting away, getting fatter, having kids pick on me and make fun of me, well, that dream was bashed out of my little brain by the time I was 11 years old. You might want to rethink the school system. It's really, really not a place for smart people.